Are you struggling to rank up in Rematch? Well, let's go over a few tips and tricks to help on your grind towards elite rank. First and foremost, you're going to want to work on being in the right place at the right time while you're on offense. Because for example, it's very often that you see multiple attackers stacked on top of each other. That allows for the defense to cover multiple threats with just one defender. So it's very important as an attacker to spread out the field. Like in threes, you have one attacker left and one attacker right. In fours, the additional attacker will be in the middle. And then in fives, the last attacker will play the midfield for any back passes. And this is really important, especially after just regaining possession of the ball, because that's when defenders are going to be the most out of position. And when your attackers are spread out, that leads for the best opportunities to make a fast break, which will lead to the best scoring attempts. Now, if you've ever played FIFA before and know anything about football formations, the most effective formation for Rematch is going to be a 1-2-1, which is exactly as I described earlier: one striker in the middle, two wingers on the sidelines, and one midfielder. And the reason this is so effective is because you'll always be able to form a triangle between three attackers. And forming a triangle is important for making quick passes to teammates, so that defenders are going to have to run back and forth between one attacker and the other, which is going to allow you to exploit holes in the defense as they begin to open up. You're just going to want to make sure that no matter where you're at, you're going to want to leave a little bit of open space so that you're able to receive a pass safely. But if you can, you're going to want to prioritize being in power positions. For example, the corner of the box, top of the box, or the mid dot, which is going to be where you're able to make the best shots you possibly can. And the next tip for today is going to be working on your vision. Sometimes things can get very chaotic, especially when the ball is changing possessions over and over again. So I like to break it down into very quick reads that I can make on the fly. The first place I'll look is the nearest defender, and then I'll move my eyes to the goalie, and then to my closest passing option. And if all of those look unappealing, I'll just look for a back pass. And no matter what, I'm always going about things in that order. If my nearest defender is out of position, I'll go for a little bit of a dribble. If the goalie is out of position, I'll take a shot on net. If I have a passing option that's wide open, I'll make a pass. And if all three of those are not the case, I'll pass it back either to the backside defender or to the goalie. Now, with trying to look at everything at once, you may notice an issue with your camera sensitivity, because I feel like it starts you off very low, which is very inefficient for being able to check multiple different options all at once. So you're going to want to tune your camera sensitivity as fast as you can possibly handle it. And now that doesn't mean cranking it all the way up. You still want to have good control of your camera, but you still want to be able to quickly check both sides of the field. Another key mistake I see a lot of people make with their vision is that they don't register whether the teammate they're passing to is wide open or if he has a near defender. Because the way that you're going to want to go about passing the ball is that if a teammate is wide open, you want to lead him upfield so that he has a good run into the ball. But if your teammate has a defender on his hit, you either want to pass the ball directly at him or maybe lead him backwards a little bit. But most importantly, you don't want to force passes just because you feel like you have to. Maintaining possession of the ball is always going to be more important than trying to force a dime piece for an assist. And then we have a tip for your defense, and that's going to be your positioning. Now, a lot of times you need to be thinking about defense even when you're on offense. So if you're out of the play on offense, you should be rotating back to defense in case the ball gets turned over. And that's because if you have three attackers in the opponent's box after the goalie makes a save, you're most likely going to have to defend 1v2 against two opponents on a fast break. And the only way you're able to slow them down is to just stall until your teammates with no stamina are able to make it back to defense. And if you find yourself in this situation, the best way that I've found to go about it is you want to midpoint defenders, which means putting yourself in equal distance between both of them. And then as they get closer to the net, you want to focus towards the back post attacker over the attacker that has the ball, because when they do finally make a shot, it's going to be much harder for the goalie to read the ball off the backboard or a ground pass as opposed to just saving a direct shot. And although it might not be the most fun thing in the world to constantly be on defense, if your goal truly is to rank up, some games are just going to be like that. And now we're on to the final tip for today, which is going to be working on your defensive skills. And a lot of these are going to be very effective ways of turning over the ball and are very simple to do, but I find that a lot of people just don't know about these. And the first one is probably the biggest reason that I average about 20 interceptions a game is going to be holding LT to be in a defensive stance when you're in front of an attacker. And this is going to be the easiest way to follow someone as they're dribbling left and right, because a defensive stance gives you a lot of lateral quickness. And also if they try to go straight at you, your character will automatically block the ball. And then the next skill, or rather skill you shouldn't do, is slide tackling. Slide tackling 99 out of 100 times is going to be the worst possible thing you can do. Because if you're even off by the slightest bit, your momentum is just going to carry you way out of the play and you're going to be irrelevant on defense. So to correct this, anytime you're challenging a ball and trying to make a tackle, you always want to let go of the sprint button before you do so. And for the next skill, if there's ever a ball that's 50 50-50 between you and another attacker where you're both running at it and are going to reach the ball around the same time. Instead of trying to take a touch or just trying to dribble it, you're going to want to standing tackle into the ball, and that's going to push it away from the attacker in the direction that your momentum was going. And then finally, for stopping all of those backboard passes, all you're going to need to do is spam X or RT to clear the ball out of there before any attacker can get to it. Now, this game is buggy and there is a bit of desync, so you're not always going to get this, but this is probably the best way that you can go about doing so. And that's going to be all I have for today. So again, if you enjoyed, like, comment, and subscribe, and peace on the streets.